Alright, so last year we built a John Suscovich style chicken tractor for our homestead here and raised a couple rounds of meat chickens. And I love John Suscovich. I love the chicken tractor plans that he came up with. It's a really solid design that I would totally recommend. But the one thing that didn't sit well with me was the fact that it had a tarp that covered the top. And I just couldn't get past putting a tarp over the top and knowing that pretty much every year I'd probably be having to replace that tarp over and over and over again. And so I came up with a design to add a metal roof, as you can see behind. And so today we're going to go through, I just built a second Suscovich chicken tractor, and we're going to go through that, and I'm going to show you how to add a metal roof to your Suscovich chicken tractor. Alright, so when it comes to chicken tractor plans, John Suscovich is the man, and he has this little book called Stress-Free Chicken Tractor Plans. I'll include a link of where you can get that below, but it really is a super easy design to build and really stress-free. Every spring, when you have like a million things on your to-do list, the last thing you want to do is like come up with a design of how to build your own chicken tractor, and so you can just follow along step by step with his book, and it walks you through the whole process of how to build a really solid chicken tractor that's going to last you for years. And so, like I said, the one thing that I had an issue with is the tarp over the top. And so today we're going to go through how to put a metal roof, as you can see. So last year I just went ahead and did this right from the start, but what's great about this is that you can take, even if you have a previously built Suscovich chicken tractor that's had a tarp on it for a number of years and you've been thinking about putting on a metal roof, or think that it's a good idea, you can totally just take what you have and upgrade it. And so I'll show you how to do that. So the materials for this project are pretty simple. You're going to need 4 10-foot long sheets of metal roofing, and then you'll actually use a 90-degree corner piece that's going to go over the top of that, and then you'll need screws to fasten in the metal roof that have a little rubber washer on them, and then you'll need three 10-foot 2x4s. You can go with treated, you can go with cedar, just something that's going to stand up to outdoors. And so that's basically all you need in addition to the regular materials for building your chicken tractor. So let's go ahead and get started with that.
Alright, so step one is that you need basically 6 2x2s or furring strips out of the 10 feet pieces of wood that you have. So I chose to rip those down with a table saw. So basically took the 2x4s and cut them in half. If you don't have a table saw, you can also just use a circular saw. It will take some extra time, but you could clamp those boards down and just cut them in half. The cuts don't have to be pretty, or you could buy 2x2s from the store as well. Our hardware store just didn't have 2x2s and treated in the 10-foot length, so I just ripped those in half. Next here, what you're going to do is take one of those 2x2s and basically clamp it, get it set onto your chicken tractor with the metal pipe. And so as you can see, I'm just marking out here where those metal pipes are. At the front of the tractor, it's pretty much gonna butt kind of up to the end. You'll see here at the end of the tractor, it's going to overhang a couple of inches, and so you'll take one of those 2x2s and do this process on each side just to get kind of a gauge of where those pipes are. And that last step that I did there was to just measure the width of a pipe, which in my case was about 3/4 of an inch. So right here I've basically got 3 sets of those 2x2s, 3 for each side, and these are going to be installed along those metal pipes as part of the roof. And I'm just tracing out where I made those marks, and then putting a little X on the inside in between the marks, and that's where I'm going to be notching out. And so here I am measuring the depth of my circular saw blade. This is, so I measured 3/4 of an inch, so you're basically going to want those pipes to sit in these notches that you're going to make, and then you're just going to go through and pretty much the same method that you used when building the tractor for the half lap joints. You're going to do the same thing here. So you're just going to be cutting out a notch with your circular saw. So once you set that depth to 3/4 inch or whatever depth your metal pipe is, it should be pretty standard, but you'll still want to measure that just to make sure your pipe is the same width. You're just going to go where you made those marks on your 2x2s and just notch those out with the saw. One thing I should mention is that since I ripped my 2x2s in half, the cut side that I had on those is facing down here, because I just wanted kind of the flush factory part facing up, because that's actually what's gonna that's the end that the metal roof is going to fasten to. So I wanted that to be the straightest part, and so I think this is my last notch here. You'll see those are kind of the finished boards with the front edge in the forefront there. And so then you're just going to pick which side you want to start on, and just take one of your 2x2s. And I like to start at the top and just get that kind of level across. And I believe I measured mine to be about 5 inches from that top bend. So these don't have to be placed perfectly. But I think I did start with mine about 5 inches down on the top here, and you're basically going to be placing one on top, one at the bottom, and one in the middle. There's the cows came to check out what was going on, and so yeah, so you're going to use some clamps, get those 2x2s set on there good, and then what I'm doing is just going through with a drill and drilling a hole through the metal. Into the wood. You don't want to go too far to go through the wood so that the screws that you're going to install them with do bite in, but pre-drill those holes with a drill bit, and then you just screw those in. And I used a 2-inch screw. You could certainly use a longer screw. 2 inches just barely poked through on the back side. If you do use a longer screw, you can just take a pair of pliers and just bend off the end of the screw, so it's not like a major head bonking thing when you're inside your tractor. But yeah, so basically you could see I'm just going through with the drill, drilling a hole through each of those, and then following back through and putting in a screw so that these kind of horizontal runner pieces are secured between secured to the pipe, and that middle one ends up being about 2 feet from each, from the top or the bottom. And then afterwards you'll see I actually left the chicken wire not fastened, so I installed it ahead of time. I kind of attached it to the top rung of the tractor and then the door there, but I just left it hanging loose, and then I came back through afterwards once I installed the runners here and stapled it in, and that makes for a really nice tight finish on the chicken wire there. So that's one option if you are just building your chicken tractor new. If you have your chicken tractor built already, then you can totally still just install those runners. You may just have to cut out a little bit where you are putting those 2x2s through. So here we're actually getting into cutting our metal roof, and so you'll measure 4 foot 6 inches from either end, and just make some marks with I use just a Sharpie marker, but yeah, you can make some marks across, and then just use a straight edge to draw a straight line across. As you can see, this is in fast motion, and I am using tin snips to cut across, and that is a really long, slow process. The first one that I built, I actually did use tin snips on the whole thing, but as you could see, I was getting into it here and realizing this is going to take all day if I keep going with this. And then I realized I have an angle grinder and can totally use that. And so you'll see I realize that and stop here and then go get my angle grinder with kind of a metal cutoff wheel and start using that here, and it goes so much faster. So you totally can use tin snips if that's all you have, but I'd recommend if you have an angle grinder, get a good metal cutting blade or two and use that. So here again is starting with a fresh sheet, cutting or measuring 4'6" from each side using a straight edge. And then we're gonna cut the first panel here, and it goes so much smoother with the angle grinder. But in the end, you're gonna end up with seven sheets or roofing panels that are 4'6". So you actually have one left over at the end that you can just have as for another project in the future. But there is one whole section that's left over, and then you're going to take one of your 7 pieces and just cut that in half down the middle. So basically right on kind of the center rib that runs through the middle of the sheet, you're going to take your angle grinder and just cut that down the middle. And then these 2 pieces here are actually going to be your starting pieces on your roof. So the next step is to then take these panels and actually start installing them onto the tractor. This gives you the right length, lengthwise when you're laying out your panels. If you take one of these sheets and cut them in half, it gives you a good starting point and gives you just the right overhang at the end of the chicken tractor. Alright, so you can see we have our 2 pieces there. And so I'm going to start fitting up those pieces onto the tractor. There's 2 things that are important that you'll really want to make sure of here. One is that you are very well lined up horizontally as you install these sheets. You don't want them either kind of tailing off or tailing upward. You have little flexibility once you kind of start going with it. And as you can see right here, I realized I didn't do that and I had a bad line going, so I'm pulling off some panels. So you want to avoid doing that. Make sure you get them lined up good from the start. If you have to there, like I did, take the top cap and just fit it on there and make sure everything looks good. But we got back up and running here, and I pulled some sheets off, readjusted. So basically you're going to be fastening in these sheets onto your 2x2 kind of horizontal runners that you installed. You're going to be putting one of the metal roofing screws in at each 2x2 and at each rib along the way. So the other thing you're going to want to make sure of is that you install your panels high enough on the chicken tractor. So there's really going to be pretty minimal overhang at the bottom, and at the top you just really want to make sure that you have enough panel up there that your top cap is going to cover and be able to screw into. And so you can actually take the top cap and set it up there at various points just to make sure you're on track. What might have been a better route for me to go here is to actually take those 2 half sheets and install those first and just make sure that I have kind of the real estate up top that I need to put that top cap on. But as you can see, the left side I installed a little short and the right side was probably spot on. It ended up working out fine for me. So you're just going through and screwing in at each 2x2 and at each rib there. And then once you get your roofing panels on, you're going to go ahead and put your top corner piece on, and basically at each rib you're just going to put in one of the roofing screws and fasten that top cap to the metal roofing. And at the back side, since the roof itself is a little bit longer than 10 feet, there's a little section that you need to cover over with metal roof. So you take a little bit of one of your cutoff pieces that's roughly 1 foot wide from when you cut out your metal sheeting here. As you can see, I just basically had a center rib and then cut off the ribs that were next to it, and then kind of bent that piece into shape here and slid it in at that back side of the roof, and this just covers up that little gap that's missing from the top cap. And I just put 4 screws into each side, and that is really the final step, and that kind of helps to secure that whole back overhang piece on the tractor. Alright, and so that is basically it, and we'll have a full blog post linked below that might help clarify any questions that you have, or certainly reach out in the comments.
Alright, so we are just about ready this year to get our baby chicks out of the brooder and into these tractors, which we're really excited about. And we actually did a separate video on our experience last year where we raised both Freedom Ranger and Cornish Cross chickens. And so this year we are going just with the Freedom Ranger chicken. And so we'll link up to that video next so you can check out why, and we'll see you in that one.